Now here we bring our feature presentation for this afternoon, and the title is The Ancient Wisdom in Modern Society. Now, the world we live in has changed dramatically. We have transitioned from an industrial age to information, knowledge worker age with all of its profound consequences. We are facing challenges and problems in our personal life, in our family, and in our workplace that are unheard of only 1 or 2 decades ago. And these challenges are not of new order of magnitude. They are altogether different in kind. And some of the common challenges we all have today. Fear and insecurity. Today, many people are gripped with a sense of fear. They fear for the future. They are afraid, they feel vulnerable in the workplace. They are afraid of losing their jobs, their abilities to provide for their families. And this vulnerability usually fosters a resignation of riskless living and the codependencies of others at work and at home. Blame and victimhood. Now, whenever you find a problem, you will usually find a finger point of blame. And society today is addicted of playing victim. If only my boss was not such a controlling idiot. If only I hadn't been born so poor. If only I had lived in a better place. If only I had not inherited such a temper from my dad. If only my kids weren't so rebellious. If only other departments did not mess up orders all the time. If we were not in such a declining industry, if only my people weren't so lazy without drive, if only my wife can be more understanding. If only, if only. Now, the children of blame are cynicism and hopelessness. If we succumb to believe we are victims of the circumstances and yield to the plight of determinism, we lose drive, we lose hope. And we usually settles in resignation and stagnation. Lack of life balance. In today's cell phone society, life is increasingly complex, demanding, stressful, and absolutely exhausting. For all the efforts we manage our time to do more, be more, to achieve greater efficiencies through the wonders of new technology, have we produced balance and a peace of mind? In the last 50 years, the success literature is filled with image consciousness, with techniques, with quick fixes, with social band-aids and aspirins that address acute problems and sometimes appear to solve them temporarily, but left the underlying chronic problems untouched. And these underlying chronic problems will fester and resurface time and again. The truth is, our problems and the challenges and the pain are universal and increasing. The solution to our problems are and always be based on timeless virtues and the principles that are common to any enduring and prospering societies throughout the history. Now, allow me to introduce to you an ancient civilization, a culture that has endured 5,000 years. A culture that is rich with virtues, wisdoms, and the principles. Now, Chinese culture is very different than American culture. It is very different than Western culture. Let me illustrate to you my point with 2 paintings. This is the Death of Socrates. It is a 1787 painting by French painter Jacques Louis David. It represents the death scene of Greek philosopher Socrates. And also depicts here are his disciples, Crito sitting ruefully at the bed's end, and Plato clutching Socrates' knees. Now, when you and I look at this painting, we see the same thing and we interpret the same way. Socrates was offered 2 options. 1, exile. 2, death. And Socrates chose death. Every single square inch of this painting is filled with color and contents. There's no room for you to imagine otherwise. Water buffalo by Chinese painter Koran Li is quite different. It is not picture-like. It is primarily black and white, and there's a lot of empty space on this painting. There is not a single stroke of water, yet in your mind, you can see water, can't you? And you can see how the water flows. You can imagine the season of the year, the time of the day, and the surrounding landscape of this painting. Some of you can imagine and hear the sound of birds singing, and you can smell the fragrance of from the blossoming flowers. So it is that difference between Eastern and Western culture. In the Western culture, it is solid, it is linear, it is reasonable, and it is logical. Here is a point A, and here is a point B, and you connect the dots. That becomes the shortest distance between A and B. If you start from point A and take it one step at a time and keep walking towards B, you will eventually get from A to B. It is linear, it is reasonable, it is logical, it is the shortest cut between A and B. But in Asian culture, it is quite different. It is not solid, it is abstract. Here's point A, here's point B. That's pretty much it. And how do you get from A to B? You have to figure out. There is not an obvious way, there's not a logical path. There's no such a thing called shortest distance. You have to figure out. You can walk, you can drive, you can fly, you can bend the space and touch A and B together. You punch a hole right through. You can take a quantum leap, but you have to figure out your own way. It is that different. Now you may ask, then how do I learn a culture that is so different to mine? Now, here I quote what Plato says. The things which we perceive as real are actually just shadows on the wall. Shadows on the wall. The things we see, the sound we hear, the scent we smell, these are what we perceive as real, and they are just shadows on the wall. Shadows of what? Shadows of the real thing, the substance on the other side of the wall. And that real thing and substance might be invisible to you. You cannot see them, but they are real. Because they can cast shadows on the wall, they can project their image on the wall. And that substance, that real thing on the other side of the wall is the essence of the culture. Now in China, we have a very similar, if not identical saying, 形而之上者谓之道，形而之下者谓之器. Above the form and shape is Tao. Below the form and shape is the container. Tao is the essence of traditional Chinese culture. It might be invisible to you, but it is there. And it is invisible because it's above the form and shape. Below the form and shape, you can see, you can smell, you can touch. It is just the container. Do not confuse the container with what it contains. Do not confuse the shadow with the real thing and the substance. So the key to understand another culture is to understand the essence of the another culture. If you understand the essence, you will understand everything. If you don't get that, you just simply don't get it. But let me illustrate my point with two movies. This is Mulan. Anybody see Mulan? Well, a lot of people see Mulan. Yeah, my two children, they grew up watching this movie. It's a very well-produced movie. It's produced by Walt Disney. Before Disney began their production, they sent their artists to China and other Asian countries to study the landscape, to study the Great Wall, and to study the facial features of Asian people. So all the characters in this movie, they all look like Chinese, they talk like Chinese, they dress like Chinese, and Disney did a very good research on traditional Chinese culture. And even the way they paint the war horse is utilizing a very classical Chinese technique. And the story is based on true Chinese story. 1,500 years ago, there's a girl named Mulan. She joined the imperial army on her father's behalf. She fought war for 12 years. It is a true story. Very authentic. Now let me compare with the second movie, Kung Fu Panda. I believe more people have seen Kung Fu Panda, right? Yes. Now, Kung Fu Panda, Kung Fu, martial arts. It is a very important component of Chinese culture. But Panda has nothing to do with martial arts, has nothing to do with the Kung Fu in Chinese history, Chinese culture whatsoever. Not only that, Panda is probably the only character in this movie that has connection with China. All the other characters, the Tai Longs, the monkeys, the tigers, and the monkeys, the Master Shifu. Master Shifu actually is a Yoda. Master Shifu is a Jedi Master in America, in Star Wars. It is an American cultural icon. Right? So the characters in Kung Fu Panda, they don't look like Chinese. They don't talk like Chinese. They're cracking American jokes all the time, and they are voiced over by Jack Black, Angelina Jolie, and Dustin Hoffman. Hollywood's A-list actors and actresses. Right? And the story is total invention by Hollywood. There's no such story in Chinese history whatsoever. Now, let me ask you this question. Out of these two movies, which one do you think will create cultural resonance? In other words, after you're watching these two movies, Asian people, particularly Chinese people, will say, that is so me, that is so my culture, it resonates with me. Which movie do you think can create cultural resonance in a brave man, young man, and woman? The right one? The left one, Mulan. Okay, and you say Mulan? Okay, Mulan? Well, the answer is Kung Fu Panda. Now, why a movie look like Chinese, talk like Chinese, dress like Chinese, based on traditional, true Chinese story, do not create cultural resonance to Chinese people? And a movie totally opposite can do just that. The answer lies within the values, the stories, the philosophies implied in these two movies. In Disney's Mulan movie, Disney tells a story about a girl. She joined the army, disguised as a man, and joined the army, fought the war. She did this because she wanted to prove her individualism, to prove her worthiness, to prove her equalness as a man. This is a fine virtue, but it's part of American culture. It is not what Mulan's story is all about in Chinese history. So it is like you are telling American values through Chinese characters in the story. On the other hand, Kung Fu Panda is telling Chinese value through American story and the characters. Now, what are the traditional Asian values we're talking about? Number one, Panda is destined to be dragon warrior. If you remember the movie, on the day that the Master Wu Wei is scheduled to pick from China's top martial artists for the next dragon warrior, Panda, who never exercised and practiced Kung Fu a day in his life, fall from the sky, drop it right in front of the Master Wu Wei. Master Wu Wei pointing at him said, "That is our next dragon warrior." To everybody's shock. You see, nothing happens randomly. Everything happens with a reason. You are who you are because you are destined to be who you are today. Everything you say, everything you do will shape your future. Cause, effect. This is what we call fate. It's a core Asian value. Second, how did Panda become dragon warrior eventually? How did he elevate to the level of dragon warrior? If you remember, he opened the dragon scroll. That is the document can only be opened and read by a dragon warrior. And that is the document that supposedly contains the supreme martial arts technique and the ultimate Kung Fu secret. When Panda opened that, wow, it is nothing. It is blank. It is empty. Now remember the empty space in Chinese, empty. Here's point A, here's point B. How do you get there? You figure it out. Here's where you are. Next is become a dragon warrior. How do you get there? There's not a shortest cut. There's not a logical path. You have to figure it out. You have to take a quantum leap. And the panda did just that. He figured out. He became the dragon warrior. It's a core Asian value. There is more. Kung Fu, or martial arts, is not about fighting. It is not even about self-defense. It is about how to be a good man, to be a better man, to be a man with higher morality. And this process of elevating your morality is called spiritual cultivation. And the Kung Fu has everything to do with the spiritual cultivation. China has two primary Kung Fu styles. Number one is called Shaolin. Shaolin is deeply rooted in Shaolin Temple. That is a Buddhist temple. And Buddhism is a spiritual cultivation practice. Another style we are more familiar with is called Tai Chi. It is founded by Zhang Sanfeng. He is a Taoist cultivator. So as you can see, it is the martial arts and the Kung Fu has everything to do with the spiritual cultivation process. It is not about fighting or self-defense. And there's more. The master Wu Gui in the middle of the movie transformed into pieces of flowers and ascended into sky. In the ancient time, Chinese people believed that's how the people with high morality, the spiritual cultivator died. Actually, they did not die. They complete their cultivation process and the journey to complete their journey on earth, and that's how they leave this earth. It's a core Asian value. There's more. And the Master Shifu eventually found his inner peace by getting rid of the attachment of anxiety, core Asian value. So as you can see, you don't have to look like Chinese, talk like Chinese, dress like Chinese, but if you understand the essence of traditional Chinese culture, you can be every bit of Chinese as you can imagine. Now, let's pause and think for a moment. If you truly understand the essence of another culture, what benefit will that bring to you in today's diversified society, in this information technology and information knowledge worker age? The benefit is huge. What success will you achieve if you reach that level of understanding of another culture? The sky is your limit. The success of Kung Fu Panda is evident by its sequel. There was Kung Fu Panda 2 last summer, and there will be Kung Fu Panda 3 next summer. Kung Fu Panda is not only successful in America, it's very successful in China and Far East Asia as well. Now, the next question is, you might want to ask, what is the essence of traditional Chinese culture? I emphasize traditional Chinese culture. Now, to put it in a nutshell, the Chinese culture can be categorized as this. It is a divinely inspired, cultivation-based. It is a tradition of self-discipline and veneration for the divine. That's in a nutshell, that is the essence of traditional Chinese culture. And one of the ancient names of China is Celestial Empire, or Land of the Divine. And the Chinese people believe their magnificent civilization is a gift from the heaven. So in ancient times, Chinese people value and live by virtues such as truthfulness, compassion, integrity, tolerance, filial piety, loyalty, so on and so forth. No matter who you are, you can be a fisherman, a farmer, you can be a government official, you can be a carpenter. For example, the scholar would meditate before studying. A chef will take pure heart to making meal. Artists will seek first in their inner beauty and the purity. And these virtues and principles are the manifestation of the essence of the Chinese culture. And these virtues and principles come to life through legend, history, characters, and stories. Stories told from father to son, from one generation to next, and they become part of Chinese culture, and they enrich the traditional Chinese culture. Now, it is time for some bad news. The bad news is understanding another culture. It is very difficult. It is very difficult. I myself is a living example. I was born and grew up in China. I came to the United States when I was 21, and I attended college. And after a few years, I get graduated and I get married and settle down and raise a family. And I have two beautiful children, and my daughter just started the first year in college. And I watched my two children grow, and I learned along with them about Western culture. I consider myself a student of history, so I read extensively about ancient Greek, Roman Empire, European history. I'm fascinated by American Civil War. I read the biographies of Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses Grant, Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson. I visited the Civil War battlegrounds, for example, the Lost Bluff in Leesburg, Manassas, Antietam, Chancellorsville, Fredericksburg. I know more about American history than average American people, but I cannot claim that I know what's at heart of American culture. I just simply don't get it. And the same holds true for American people to understand Chinese culture, or for any other people from different culture to understand Chinese culture as well. And well, the news will get worse in my next couple of slides. As a matter of fact, it will get much, much worse. Because we are living in the middle of a dark age, a cultural dark age. In 1949, Chinese Communist Party came to power. And the ideology of Communist Party is materialistic and anti-theistic. They promote class struggle instead of the harmony between man and nature, as the traditional culture emphasizes. So in order to make room for its ideology, the party will systematically destroy traditional Chinese culture, demonizing it as a superstition. And during the Cultural Revolution, the party went on large destruction of our cultural heritage. Most of our most treasured cultural relics were destroyed. For example, on the left is a pulling down of a monument in Confucius Mansion. On the right is the humiliation and the destruction of Confucius' statue. It amounts to the same or even more than pulling down the Washington Monument and the destruction and humiliation of Lincoln Memorial. And unfortunately, this suppression goes on today. Yes, it goes on today. It becomes sophisticated, but it's still suppressing the traditional culture today. For example, the party no longer destroy the cultural relics. On the contrary, they promote the Confucius Institute in China and overseas. Now, get this. What the party promotes are the shadows on the wall. What the party promotes are the containers, not the essence of Confucius' teaching, which is self-discipline and veneration for the divine. More than 60 years have passed since 1949. 2 generations. Many things can happen. Many things can be forgotten. Chinese people born after 1949 opened their eyes to a spiritual desert. They are no longer familiar with their own culture. They are no longer familiar with their own heritage. If Chinese people cannot recognize their own culture, if Chinese people forget about their own heritage, isn't this magnificent civilization on the brink of extinction? It is. And when people walk away from self-discipline and veneration for the divine, bad things will happen. Bad things have happened. Piracy, corruption are rampant. Trust is a rare commodity in China today. And respect and the protection of intellectual property is non-existent. Counterfeiting is increasingly becoming a problem. As a matter of fact, China is our #1 source country of counterfeiting goods. Fake drugs were sold to treat hypertension, diabetes, skin diseases, and other complicated illnesses, including cancer. Counterfeiting goods were found in the U.S. military. So as you can see, this cultural dark age is not only limited in cultural realm, it is not only limited in China, it affects you and your loved ones. Now, amazing, in this dark hour of the dark age, a hope emerged. The traditional culture has a magical way of staying alive in people's mind and heart, waiting to be awakened, waiting to be rekindled. A renaissance is going on today. A renaissance is right at the corner, and the Shenyun Performing Arts is leading the way. And the Shenyun Performing Arts is driving this tidal wave, and it creates rising tide that lifts all boats.
What has lasted 5,000 years was once almost lost. Now, the world awaits the divine culture's return.
Shenyun is a spectacular dance and a music show. It showcases the essence of 5,000 years civilization through classical Chinese dance, original live music, and state-of-the-art animated backdrop, and hundreds of exquisite handcrafted costumes. Beginning each year with all new programs, Shenyun tours over 100 cities and it reaches more than 1 million audience members. And they will come to Kennedy Center next January. It is a show about 2.5 hours long, consists of 20 different programs. Most of them are classical Chinese dance and many are story-based. And what you see here is this dance is called Mulan Joins the Battlefield. It tells the story of one of China's most famous heroines. And the Mulan story is an example of China's two ancient virtues. One, loyalty to your emperor. Second, filial piety. That means respect and caring for your parents. And the Mulan story is of self-sacrifice as she took the place of her ailing and old father in the place in the imperial army. She joined army, fought war for 12 years, and became a celebrated general. And when the campaign is over, Mulan got accommodation from the emperor. And no one knew that they were fighting alongside with a girl. And Shenyun's version of Mulan gives a very dramatic but authentic retelling of our heroine's journey. It is quite different than its Disney's counterpart. And one very unique feature of Shenyun's show is the innovative use of high-tech animated backdrop. And I'm not able to show you the animation part because it's a static picture. It tells a story, it's a legend. A long time ago, all of a sudden their 9 suns appeared in the sky, scorching the earth. So the god sent his general to take care of the problem. So the general descended on earth and he shoot down the suns. Every time our hero let the magical arrow fly, the fly hits the sun bursts into fireball and drops in the ocean. And then all the music, the choreography, and the animation are in perfect synchronization. You don't have to understand the Chinese language, but you will not have any problem to understand the dance. Not only you will understand the story, more importantly, you will understand the virtues and the principles behind the story. Other than story-based dance, Shenyun also includes quite a few ethnic folk dance. What you see here is a Mongolian bowl dance. Mongolian people usually perform this hospitality dance at the feast to encourage the guests to eat and drink more. So they tend to include the tableware in their dance. I can assure you those bowls are real. They are not something attached to the hair, because at the end of the dance, the performers will disassemble the bowls and display them on the floor. Now, I don't know whether you've seen the Mongolian dance before or not. Mongolian dance is featured by the wild shake of their shoulder while keep the bowls in balance. It is quite unique and it's quite challenging. The next what you see here is a fine example of a Manchuria court dance. Manchuria people are from Qing dynasty. That is the last feudal dynasty in Chinese history. And the Manchuria people, they're living, these ladies who are living inside the Forbidden City, they enjoy a set of different culture than the people living outside. Everything you see here, from the platform, the shoes, to their costumes, to their tassel hairstyle, everything is very well researched, very well designed, and handcrafted to fit each individual dancer. It is quite a show. Shen Yun builds bridge between cultures, and I can think nothing better represent that as its orchestra. On its base, Shen Yun Orchestra is a European-style orchestra, on top of which they include the Chinese soloist to a great effect. On the left, this instrument is called the pipa. It is also known as the king of all China's folk music instruments. It can give very gentle water-flowing sound, or it can give a very violent, wild, war-like sound. As a matter of fact, the most famous piece of pipa is called Ambush from 10 Sides. So you can imagine in your mind what it sounds like. On the right is erhu, or two-string violin. It only has 2 strings and a bow in between. So you can either play one string or the another. You cannot play the 2 sounds, 2 notes in the same time. Now, despite its simplicity, it is very expressive. Erhu has more than 4,000 years history. It can give the sound that's the closest to a human voice. It is very expressive. As a matter of fact, this is one of my favorites. I don't know whether you have been to the Opera House Canyon Center. That is a venue that can host 2,000 people. And when erhu soloist is playing, the entire opera house is dead silent. You can hear a pin drop. It almost feels like everybody is holding their breath, trying to listen to this piece intently. It is quite beautiful. And here is a picture of the full orchestra. That is erhu right there, and this is pipa. You know, to mix or combine the Eastern and the Western music instrument together in the same orchestra is very difficult, because the same note playing by the Chinese instrument or the Western instrument, they're very different. The same note can played by those 2 instruments, but they give a very different pitch and a tone. It is very difficult. But somehow, the Shen Yun artists combine them together and create harmony. It is truly music to your ear. For long, Chinese people have held that their magnificent culture is a gift from heaven. Art was primarily a means to explore the connection between human world and the higher universe. Artists cultivate virtues because they believe in order to create art worthy of the divine, there must first be inner beauty and a purity. And Shen Yun follows that tradition. Shen Yun artists believe that just mastering the surface of the art is not enough, as it is the heart of artists that audience feel. Therefore, they take the values and the wisdom from traditional Chinese culture as part of their life. And these inspire them to nurture goodness on their path to artistic perfection. And that is the culture of Shen Yun. That is why Shen Yun is world class. That is why Shen Yun is one of a kind. That is why Shen Yun is the best, if not the only way for you to truly understand, explore, learn, and eventually you will grasp the essence of Chinese culture. Because it will enable you to see through the shadow, to see beyond the wall, to see what that real thing, that substance is. It will enable you to see inside the container, to see what it is contained. That is the Tao, that is the essence of traditional Chinese culture. It is that powerful, it is that beautiful.
Traditional Chinese dance requires someone to be very poised. It requires you to be very focused. I think I'm pretty good at the control part because when I dance, sometimes even when I want to look at the mirror, I can't see myself. I don't know why. My eyes just keep looking forward, but I don't see anything. I just see straight ahead. So maybe that's why I'm better at controlling and very focused, being focused. When I was really young, my mom wanted to sculpt me into someone who can present traditional values and someone very ladylike. So she sent me to learn all sorts of different kinds of things like pipa, it's a traditional Chinese instrument, and she sent me to learn the flute and calligraphy, and she also sent me to learn dancing, which she hoped to help me have good posture when I grow up. It helps me in everyday life because I realized that all the traditional values that people were throwing away in modern society right now are actually very important, and you need them if you want to dance with Chinese dance well. It's not just something shallow, you really need something on the inside and deep understanding to be able to present something nice on the outside. So I started to learn more how to act and dress more traditionally. I'm very happy to meet these young dancers here at Shuyun because even though we all have very diverse personalities, we all value the same traditional values. I love it when we have different parties or different activities like birthday parties. Since we spend so much time together, we already know each other so well that even on stage we can feel each other. That's how we can be so together. Even with so many people, it all seems like one person dancing. When we dance, we're always conscious about people around us and to be the same and to have the same movements.
Were amazing, you know, the way they just all worked together as one. It was just like looking like one object moving around, incredible.
Not just the individual dancers, but for everyone to dance together to really perform so well as a group. I thought that was very impressive.
Super, absolutely.
Just like how our MC says, every dance has its own unique meaning.
中国人说，一根筷子好折，一把筷子难断。You know, one single chopstick is easier to break than a bunch, hence people need to pull in their efforts together.
Ah yes, just like on the harsh plains of Mongolia.
Actually, this concept applies to every dance that we do. When I do an important role in a dance, and when I'm dancing with everyone else on the side, I don't feel any difference because if one person does well on stage, it doesn't mean anything. What the audiences see is not just one person, they look at the whole picture. So everyone needs to do well, and we all know that. Even when, say, when one person is dancing, everyone behind me or on the side is supporting and encouraging me, and that helps me to do well. So it's everyone's strength. Think about how to make our dancing better and how to be a better person, and that helps us also on stage to be focused and present the right message to the audience.
Beautiful, beautiful. Love the spirituality in it because it touched my heart. It was a divine message there, and the message was wonderful.
Each of the dancers and the singers had that core, that groundedness themselves so they were not just performing but actually living the message that they were dancing.
I can relate with those messages very much. So very hopeful.
It was beauty for the eyes and beauty for the brain and beauty for the heart. So I'm walking away very inspired and full with optimism.
I just feel like it's almost like being reborn and starting anew again in my life and letting go of a lot of pain and illusions. So that's when I felt very teary.
I believe that art form was created with pure and clean intentions will radiate positive energy that can benefit the audience. I want the audiences to get something out of our show, to receive message and to realize that there's more beyond the materialistic things in life. So even when they are depressed, they can pull themselves through depressions or even bad situations and keep going in life.
Now, no one, I mean no one, can deal with change in life if there is not a change in the sense of who you are. The key to the ability to change is a change in the sense of who you are, what you are about, and what you value. Virtues are deep, fundamental truths, classical truths, generic common denominators. The virtues are bigger than people and circumstances, and thousands of years of history have seen them triumph over and over again. Even more important, we can secure in the knowledge that we can validate these virtues in our own lifetime by our own experience, by centering our life on those universal, timeless virtues and principles. We create a effective, fundamental paradigm of effective living. It is a source of wisdom, power, guidance, and security. Like the United States Constitution is fundamentally changeless. In the last 200 years, there had been only 26 amendments, and 10 of which were in the original Bill of Rights. It is a document that U.S. President agrees to defend and support when he takes the oath of allegiance. The U.S. Constitution has enabled people right through such major trauma as Civil War, Vietnam, and Watergate. The Constitution has endured and served its vital function today because it is based on correct virtues. It is based on the self-evident truths contained in the Declaration of Independence. And these virtues and these principles empower the Constitution with a timeless strength, even in the midst of social ambiguity and change. Thomas Jefferson said, I quote, "Our peculiar security is in the possession of a written Constitution." End quote. Now, do we all have our own personal written Constitution? That is the source of the guidance, wisdom, power, and the security. Now, I do not expect that all your problems, challenges, and the pains will disappear after you watch Shen Yun. But if you watch Shen Yun, and you will, if you watch Shen Yun with open eyes, with open mind, I feel comfortable to assure you that you will gain new perspective, you will gain new perception, you will experience a paradigm shift, you will gain new lens through which you see things in a new frame of thought. Because when you think differently, you see differently. When you see differently, you act differently. And when you act differently, you will have a different set of consequences, and your life will be changed for good. Cause, effect, never fail to work. Now, forgive me, I keep saying it's a Chinese culture, Chinese civilization, Chinese virtue, Chinese principles. But think about it, those virtues such as truthfulness, compassion, tolerance, integrity, fidelity, filial piety, loyalty, justice, courage, wisdom, so on and so forth. These are the virtues that mankind is based on. These are the virtues that we all share. They are the bedrock of our human society. China just happened to validate them in the last 5,000 years. So it is our culture. It is our civilization. It is our shared treasure. So I encourage you to let Shen Yun take you on to a journey to explore this magnificent 5,000 year civilization. Let Shen Yun take you to a world where beauty and purity have never lost. Now this is the holiday season. We are here to kick off the holiday season, and everyone is thinking about a perfect gift. Everything comes with a price. And IMAX tickets cost you $14. An iPad costs you probably $500. A cruise to Bahama for a family of 4 costs you between $2,000 to $4,000. But for a wonderful afternoon in a world-class venue, enjoyable, very educational, very inspiring event, and for the possible chance you can experience the paradigm shift, and for this once-in-a-lifetime experience, it is priceless. And I wish I can see you all in Canyon Center Opera House, and we all watch Shen Yun together. And let me emphasize again, at the beginning each year, Shen Yun comes with a all new program.